I am Jennifer Dugan. I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. That is my official title here at the university. As a person, I'm somebody who is very much getting used to a brand new environment. This is my 8th week in the position, and I treat every day like a day to explore and learn and grow as a person and as a leader. I am also the mother of 2 adult daughters. One just graduated from veterinary medicine school, and the other is taking a gap year following her high school graduation. I grew up in 2 places, one in Lakewood, Ohio, which is right on Lake Erie outside of Cleveland, and the other is in Barre, Vermont, which is a small town in New England. And then I guess I would say I'm a wife and a loving friend to my group of friends. As a professor of global studies and political science for 20 years in Lynchburg, Virginia, I taught human rights, and I think all of that relates to my love of humanity and my sense of justice, and also my strong belief in building and sustaining loving, supportive communities, whether it's a family or your broader community. I think there's a lot of ways to define that. So there are a lot of aspects to that question of who are you. I would say I'm all those things sort of all at once.
A lot of roles, but exciting roles. When you think about your experience of teaching human rights and being a professor for 20 years and now a dean, as a kid, was that the goal, or what did you want to do as a kid?
Well, there are 4 of us kids in my family, and my dad was a labor union leader for mechanics of United Airlines, and this was in Cleveland. And we as children learned a lot about the right to access food and the right to medical care and all those things that tend to be on our political agenda at certain moments of our electoral cycle in the US, but we as kids were engaged in conversations about that pretty much every night over dinner. My dad was very much a person who believed in the right of workers to be earning a decent wage, to, being able to afford housing and food. And we were often, as a family, on strike. When my dad and his union was on strike, the family was on strike. And I would be the one charged with taking my wagon and going up the road to the food pantry and getting our dinner, which is usually cans of food. And so there was a lot of juggling of resources, as well as a lot of discussion over what equality is and what a living wage is. I think another aspect to my focus on human rights as I grew up was that we were all the kids in my family and my dad, type 1 diabetics. And I remember sitting around and just passing the insulin bottle around, and we didn't share anything else, but we did share that part of our medical treatment. And it always felt to me like we were on the verge of not having what we needed to live a healthy life. And I think my sense of thinking beyond myself sort of took that to a level of we all need access to health care, to the medicine that keeps us healthy, to food and housing and all of that. So I think it's a combination of my personal experience and feelings of vulnerability growing up, as well as a sense of community and helping each other out and doing it together. That led me to really want to be a part of a larger movement in encouraging people and governments to pursue human rights as a norm throughout human existence, regardless of where human beings are, or the color of their skin, or what their governments are or aren't necessarily doing for them.
So you're new to the job, but have not new to higher ed, and I just wonder, when you think about your life, is there a dream job out there for you?
There's this feeling, I think, if we all pay attention to ourselves, it's a feeling we get when we are really doing something that just lights us up in every way. And what that is for me is thinking strategically about how the liberal arts and sciences and our amazing faculty here can put their skills and their knowledge together to offer our students high impact experiences that will really help them grow as people. So every day I try to spend a little time thinking strategically, working with people to imagine new directions that will really help our students and our graduates, and also contribute to the world in all kinds of good ways. So if I could have a job that would allow me to do that all the time, to work with people, to read the landscape with, what are the careers out there, and how can our students understand the connection between what lights them up when they do certain things. Is it working with people? Is it working with numbers? Is it going for different leadership experiences or volunteer opportunities? What are those things that give you that feeling of wow, this sense of well-being, and I'm really doing something unique to who I am? And then make sure you go out and get a position that helps you do and be those things. So I don't know exactly what that position is, but I know that I get a lot of it here, and it's a combination of working with people. If I'm not out there in this college, in this building every day talking with folks, it's a really bad day for me. One day I was here, it was very slow, and I said, well, let me just sit down and look at numbers. Let's look at data all day. That's what I did. It was that Labor Day holiday. And at the end of the day, I realized I hadn't spoken with anyone. I hadn't gone to lunch. I hadn't had a conversation. I hadn't connected, and it felt really bad. And that tells me, look, you need to have a connection with people every day. If it's leaving this office and walking around the building and just striking up conversations, or if it's heading out across campus, I need to feel that connection. So you just learn these things about yourself as you go about your life, and you pay attention to the certain ways you're feeling, and then you try to do better the next day. And so that has definitely become a goal of mine, is to make that connection with people.
I know you talked about, a lot of your life being informed by your dad's work for the rights of workers. Anything else in life that happened to spur you on towards this path?
Yeah. I was lucky enough as an undergraduate to have two mentors, advisors, a married couple who saw me, who really saw me in a way that I probably didn't see myself yet. And what they saw in me was someone who was really interested in social, not just justice, but change. And they felt that it would be good for me to not only take classes, but have a study abroad experience that would help me figure out my role in social change movements, and my role as an intellectual and as somebody who was going to go on to graduate school, what that would look like. And so while they were sending my friends to really interesting places like Scotland and Spain, they suggested that I go to Central America and be a part of an international brigade of students who were picking coffee for several months in the country of Nicaragua. And that was really interesting because it was a country that the U.S. at that time was at war with indirectly. And so it gave me a firsthand experience of U.S. foreign policy, of what a new government in the country of Nicaragua was trying to do by way of human rights. I was there during a time that the country was writing its new constitution, and I learned a lot about the debates over women's rights and the role of the Catholic Church, and all of that was a really unique and pivotal, I think, experience for me to kind of take all that in and learn about myself. And I came back, and I think that is what led me to go on and study what I did for my PhD, which was to go to Cuba and study Cuban agriculture and the process of change through actually the tobacco crop. So we had coffee in Nicaragua, revolutionary situation, tobacco in Cuba, and yet I learned a lot about human rights violations in the process of doing that research. How a government can be set up to take care of the needs of people in terms of food and clothing and healthcare, but the needs of people to freedoms of speech and press, not so much. And so when I went on as a professor to teach human rights, I would always have my students look at that balance between economic rights, the right to eat and the right to food, and political rights, which are the rights to speak and assemble and publish. And what is that balance? And do we have that balance? And does your community have that balance? So that is, I would say, going back to my undergraduate experience and two professors who actually saw something in me and then designed an experience that I could then go on to do, which led me, I think, to where I am now.
Wow. What really incredible experiences you just talked about. Obviously a very strong intellect. So I wonder if you put all that into a sentence about your call or purpose, what is your call or purpose within one sentence?
Boy, that's a tough one. My calling is to be a part of something bigger, and that measures its success by how it leads and contributes to social improvements and just strengthening communities, I think.
Do you feel like your career aligns with that calling?
I do, so far, here. I know it did when I was a professor. I felt I had an impact on my students every day, and they on me. Here, I think it's just a different constellation of interactions and relationships. I was drawn to UPike because of the mission to serve the region, and I very much, that feeling of getting lit up, I very much love the role I can play in helping our faculty and staff and students make connections to strengthening the region, to enriching our community here. And I think as I move along in my position, I'll be stronger as a leader that is mission driven. So I think this is the right place for me. And I feel very much compelled to be a a strong colleague in this endeavor.
Mm. You've been very influential for a lot of people. I imagine your students and your classes you have made drastic impact on. But who for you? You talked about your dad, you talked about this married couple of professors who really just designed this personal program. But who else has been influential for you to help you understand who you are and how you express that in the world?
The person I think about a lot is somebody named Father Ray Bourgeois, who was a leader of liberation theology in Latin America. I grew up Catholic, and I grew up, in fact, during a phase of the Catholic Church that defined social justice in the exact same way my dad did. I think the church has changed somewhat, I'm finding. Father Ray, was a leader in Central America for interpreting the Bible in the same way the Second Vatican Council said we should interpret it, which is that people don't have to wait until they get to the kingdom of God to get what they need to live on earth. So he led a massive movement to reform agrarian laws as to who could own land, so that people could have their own land to grow their own food and then have their own food security. And this was a big deal in the face of multinational corporations that were actually coming in to buy that land. So it was a courageous leader who had a connection to a biblical belief, and so it was more than a political movement. It was actually grounded in that interpretation of the Bible. And in the process, a lot of people were killed and hurt in fighting, really, that power structure. The Catholic Church was also, the Catholic Church as a formal organization was not on his side. And when I taught my courses about Latin America and human rights in Latin America, Father Ray was somebody, and the sisters who worked with him were people who helped me understand that to believe in what you're doing is to tie it to your calling and your spiritual beliefs as an anchor. So that when you say, wait a second, why are we doing this? Or wait a minute, this is really dangerous, or we're up against a lot, you're kind of buoyed and driven by the fact that what you're doing is actually part of your belief system. So I think about Father Ray quite a bit, and the movement to fight for justice while living your values.
What did you do to put yourself in the position that you're in today? How did you position yourself?
Well, I always remain active in building my network of people who mentor me and support me, and were on the lookout for positions that they thought would fit what I am about. And in terms of this position, someone said to me, there's a job out there that is defined by the mission of the university, which is to serve a region that has undergone significant change and yet is committed to the liberal arts and sciences, and is committed to helping students go back out and serve this community. And that sounds an awful lot like you. I think what's important is to make sure you have people who know you, who understand not just what you've done, but what you want to do or what you would be good at. And sometimes it's not things you necessarily see about yourself. So you need a lot of different kinds of people looking out for you, and that involves being in a network. I'm part of several organizations that allow us to get together and just talk with each other and network, and be on listservs through email. And I would say just being vigilant myself about my next steps, being always focused on your job and also kind of like what you'd like to do next to do what you do even better. So that would be my advice, is to make sure you're networking, that you have your contacts, and that you're getting your volunteering and you're getting yourself out there to do good things.
As a person who's been in higher education for a long time, the conversations you've had with young people and students are in the thousands. So I know this is not a new question that you had, especially as a professor. When a student comes in and says, I just have no idea. It's like, no idea what I'm supposed to do. I'm surrounded by all these people who seem to know what they're supposed to do, and I have no idea. What advice do you have for them?
First of all, I would say you're not surrounded by people who know exactly what they want to do. That's probably not true, and it's probably the case that that they're doing what they're doing because they arrived there by accident. So don't ever feel that everybody around you has it all locked in and you're the only one that's kind of still searching. I also think that we should always be searching. If you're in and doing exactly what you want to do with the end, there's no more to the story, I would say make sure, check that, because there's probably a door that's open there, or a window, a little crack that could lead you to something else, even if it's at the same time that you're doing exactly what you want to do. There's probably a role for you to play besides that. I guess I would go back to the point I made earlier about just pay attention to what lights you up. There are things that we all have to do that we do. We can say, okay, we reached that goal, but pay attention. Did that actually, was there that feeling that made you happy, that made you proud of your work, that made you feel more connected than something else that you do in the course of your day or your job? Is there a class that you're taking that is allowing for a new book or some new ideas or an internship? You just say, wow, I'm getting this feeling about this that I think I might need to pay attention to. And then, of course, there are all kinds of tools that we have that are, tests and apps and people on campus we can talk to that will help ask us questions about future career goals. Those are there, and I think they're pretty effective. Our career services people would have those kinds of things. I never took those tests. I just had to figure it out through trial and error, but I probably could have taken advantage of things like that. So I would say pay close attention to yourself, the feelings you're getting as you do things, including taking classes, and just be comfortable knowing that we're surrounded by people who are searching and who are probably not where they are because they knew exactly what they wanted to do. So just calm down about that.
Well, I think about Reverend Blythe all those years ago who started UPike, and his social justice heart and his many times of prayer. And I think Reverend Blythe would see you as an answer to prayer being here. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah. And thanks for the interview.
Absolutely. Yeah.